Good afternoon, students. Today we will take up the second part of this unit, which is D block elements. So today we will study the remaining properties. One of them is chemical reactivity. So transition metals, they vary in their chemical reactivity. Many are very positive to dissolve in mineral acids. Some are noble, that means they are unaffected by acids. Now what happens is that if you see the series, the metals of the first series, except for copper, they are mostly more reactive and are oxidized by H plus or acid. Although the rate at which these metals react with oxidizing agents is sometimes slow. Now let us see the magnetic properties. So substances which contains species like atoms or ions or molecules with unpaired electrons, they are called as paramagnetic. So paramagnetic substances are weakly attracted by the magnetic field, and when they are strongly attracted, they are called as ferromagnetic. Then substances which do not contain any unpaired electrons and are repelled by the magnetic field, they are called as diamagnetic. Then since transition metal elements, they contain unpaired electrons, so they are paramagnetic. And then paramagnetic behavior, it increases with increase in the number of unpaired electrons. And this paramagnetism is also expressed in terms of the magnetic moment. Why? Because it is related to the number of unpaired electrons. Now the magnetic moment, I think I have already discussed about it, but I will brief you again. Normally what happens is that when an electron is in, because an electron is associated with the nucleus. So the motion of an electron around the nucleus is just like the motion of Earth or other planets around Sun. So what happens is that like the Earth rotates and on its own axis and then also revolves around the Sun. Similarly, the electron also, it also rotates on its own axis, which is called as spin motion, and its revolution around the nucleus is called as orbital motion. So if we consider only the spin motion of the electron, then the magnetic moment is given by under root n into n plus 2, where n is the number of unpaired electrons and the unit is Bohr magneton. And its value is 9.27 into 10 to the power minus 21 Earth per Gauss. Now, single unpaired electrons has a magnetic moment of 1.73 Bohr magneton. How? If you put the value of n equals to 1 in the formula under root n into n plus 2, so it comes out to be 1 plus 2, that is 3. So under root 3 is what? 1.73. So if the number of unpaired electron is 1, the value of magnetic moment will be 1.73 Bohr magneton. If the value is the number of unpaired electrons is 2, similarly the value will be around 2, that is 2.76. If the number of unpaired electrons is 3, then the value will be 3.86 as given in the table below. If the number of unpaired electrons is 4, the value will be 4.8 Bohr magneton. If the number of electrons is 5, the value will be 5.96. The next thing is formation of complex compounds. So metal ions, what they do is that they bind with a number of anions or neutral molecules, giving rise to different type of complexes. Why? First of all, because the size of the metal ion is small, so the complex formed is stable. Also, it has high charge, ionic charge, and then there is also the availability of d orbital to bond to form the bond. Now we see the formation of complex compounds. So complex compounds are what? They are those in which the metal ion binds a number of anions or neutral molecules, giving complex species with a characteristic property. And transition metals are found to form a large number of complex compounds. Some of the examples are ferrous, ferricyanide, ferrocyanide, then copper, ammonium salt, and then platinum tetrachloride. Like that is the potassium salt. So why these complexes are being formed? Why it happens? Why this formation occurs? It is because of again the small size of the metal, high charge, and the availability of d orbital for bond formation, like we just studied in the last slide. So when atoms like hydrogen or carbon or nitrogen, they are trapped inside the crystal lattice, what happens is that they form non-stoichiometric compounds, for example, titanium chloride or Mn4n Fe3H. So And such compounds have high melting points, which is much higher than those of the pure metal. And they are also very hard. Some borides, they are, they are so hard, like they are as hard as diamond. Such compounds are called as interstitial compounds. And then they retain the metallic conductivity and they are chemically inert in nature. Now let us see some of the compounds like oxides and oxoanions of metals. So it is to be noted that all metals except for scandium, they form oxides of the type MXOY, which are mostly ionic in nature. And it has also been observed that as the oxidation number of the metal increases, the ionic character goes on decreasing. So if you see the higher oxides, the acidic character is prominent. So most of the higher oxides are acidic oxides. For example, if you see V2O2, V2O4 and V2O5. So you will find that this is V2O2 is less basic. Then V2O4 is more basic. And then V2O5 is amphoteric, means having nature of both acid and base. Then coming to alloy formation. So what happens is that why alloy formation occurs in case of transition metal elements, because of the similar radii and other characteristics properties. And the alloys which are formed, they are so hard that they have high melting points. And common alloys are, alloys of iron with chromium, vanadium, tungsten, molybdenum, and manganese. And they are used in the formation of steel, stainless steel. And alloys of transition metals with non-transition metal like brass, copper, zinc, and then bronze. So sometimes what happens is that alloys, sometimes this alloy formation occurs within, like both the metals are transition metal elements, or sometimes they may not be transition metal elements. For example, copper form an alloy with a transition metal like copper zinc, that is brass, and it may also form bronze, which is an alloy of transition metal, that is copper, and a non-transition metal, that is tin. Now coming to a very important property which is called as a magnetic property, which I just briefed initially. So what happens is that depending upon the orientation of the electrons and the number of, whether the electrons are paired or unpaired, so the transition metal elements have, they have been found to exhibit some kind of magnetic behavior. So such magnetic substance, when such substances, such metals are brought in contact with a magnetic field, or a magnetic field is applied to such substances, then two kinds of magnetic behavior is observed. Either diamagnetism or paramagnetism. Diamagnetism means which are weakly repelled by the field. Paramagnetism, which are feebly attracted by the field. But when this attraction is very strong, it is called as ferromagnetism. In fact, ferromagnetism is an extreme form of paramagnetism. Now, it has been found that most of the transition elements and their compounds, they show paramagnetism. And why does it arise? Paramagnetism arises because of the presence of unpaired electrons, each of them having the particular magnetic moment, which is given by under root n into n plus 2. So if you see, this is a random arrangement of atoms when there is no magnetic field. When the magnetic field is applied, then some of the atoms, they align in one direction, some align in the opposite direction. So this kind of behavior is paramagnetism. Whereas when a particular group is oriented in a particular direction, that means they are strongly attracted by the magnetic field, then it leads to ferromagnetism. So when there is no magnetic field, there is no magnetic field, then there is random motion. In the presence of magnetic field, some oriented in one direction, some oriented in another direction. In paramagnetism, certain groups in one direction, certain groups in the other direction, paramagnetism. Whereas in ferromagnetism, all of the molecules are oriented in one direction. Again, the same thing is happening, what we just saw, the spin only formula, using the spin only formula, what is the same magnetic moment. So it has been found that paramagnetism first increases and then decreases in the first transition series. And maximum paramagnetism is seen around the center or the middle of the transition series. Why? Because that has the maximum number of unpaired electrons. That is manganese, which is 5 unpaired electrons. Now, there are certain questions that you can just go through, but I will let you, understand one of them, like which ion has the maximum magnetic moment. So if question is given like this, then you just have to see the basic, state of the basic electronic configuration of the metal, and then the oxidized form. And then you have to check what is the electronic configuration and then how many number of unpaired electrons are left. Now a question is given, what is the magnetic moment of Mn2 plus, where the atomic number is 25. Atomic number 25 divalent Mn2 plus, that will give D5 configuration, that means 5 unpaired electrons, and putting in the formula under root Nn2 plus, so it will give us to 5.92. Now coming to some important complexes of the d block element. So one of them is potassium dichromate and the other one is KMN4. So potassium dichromate is an important compound, and it is prepared from chromate, and this chromate is obtained from the chromite ore, which is an iron chromium ore, and by reaction with sodium or potassium carbonate. The reaction is given over here. And if you see the structure of chromate, so it is a tetrahedral structure, the chromate ion, whereas dichromate is 2 tetrahedral joined by an oxygen atom. If you see the properties, so in the acidic solution, oxidizing action is represented like this. In the acidic medium, chromium 6 plus reduces the chromium 3 plus. Like if you see in this reaction, iodide is being oxidized, and then sulfur is being oxidized, and then tin is being oxidized, iron is being oxidized. So this is the oxidizing. So what happens is that it releases some electrons, and these are received by the acceptor body or the reducing body, which is going to get reduced, so that will accept these electrons. Then coming to KMnO4, that is potassium permanganate. It is prepared by reaction of a diffusion of manganese dioxide with NaOH in the presence of an oxidizing agent. So it produces a K2MnO4, which is a dark green color compound, which later on further dissociates or disproportionates to give, in a neutral or acidic medium, to give KMnO4. And in laboratory, this Mn2 plus ion, it is oxidized by peroxide disulfide, that is S2O8, K2S2O8, Na2S2O8, to form permanganate. So there are 2 ways of preparation. So coming to the properties, it is also a very strong oxidizing agent. Why? Because like potassium dichromate, which releases 6 electrons, if you see KMnO4, it is acidic in, it is oxidizing in both acidic as well as a neutral medium and basic medium. So in neutral medium, it is given, everything is given. Like in acidic solution, what happens is that it is getting reduced, KMnO4 is getting reduced to Mn2 plus, it is releasing 5 electrons. Then the second reaction is like Mn2 plus is being converted to Mn3 plus. Again, KMnO4 is reducing to Mn2 plus, so 5 electron change is happening. And then when oxalate reaction with oxalate, again the same reaction is happening. In H2S, when reaction with H2S, so H2S gets oxidized, sulfur gets precipitated, and the sulfur then, the sulfide then reduces KMnO4. Then sulfurous acid is H2SO3. So H2SO3 reacts with KMnO4 to form Mn2 plus. And itself it gets oxidized to sulfuric acid or sulfate. Then nitrite, NaNO2, KNO2, it gets oxidized to nitrate and reduces KMnO4 to Mn2 plus. Now this was the reaction in the acidic medium. Then in neutral or in alkaline medium, what happens? KMnO4, what it does, it itself reduces, and from 7 plus 7, it is coming out to be plus 4. So there is a exchange of 3 electrons, and it is oxidizing iodide to iodate, and then thiosulfide, it oxidizes thiosulfate to sulfate. If you see the structure of KMnO4, it is tetrahedral manganate. That is K2MnO4. So MnO4, 2 minus is tetrahedral manganate, and then permanganate is also tetrahedral. So I think, students, that is all from this topic.